Sandra, what inspired you to go into mushroom medicine?
It's been the most interesting journey for me. It started with a project. I was working as an architect, and it started with a project that an NGO asked me to make a piece of groundwork viably for them as a sustainability project. And in that project, I put in vegetable growing, chickens, all the sort of things that keep a project going sustainably. And the interesting part for me that really led me on a different path in my life was research that I had to do on mushroom growing. And the facility that's needed for that purpose is what took me on a completely different, a deep dive into what mushrooms can do for people in our lives and how we've missed that opportunity for ages and ages. And I've just decided that that's where my calling is. I tell people that in my life I chose architecture because I love the creative and the logical side of life, and it suited me really well. But mushrooms have chosen me, and I've had to run with it. It was
Sounds divinely ordained.
it was something that I feel that I've had to follow. That's been my purpose in life.
That's beautiful. Now, for the people out there who don't understand how many strains of mushroom there are and all of the variety of things that mushrooms can do for one. I mean, I've watched a documentary on it, and I was quite impressed with just how many layers there are to this medicine in terms of, healing mind, body, and even soul. Maybe you can share with us your top 4 or 5 strains and how do they work? I mean, how do they benefit us?
So mushrooms are very, very interesting. There's over 1 million different strains of mushrooms in the world out there. But the ones that are considered medicinal have very specific properties. And the properties are that they grow on wood, they're wood lovers. Okay, and there's a reason for that. They are what we consider primary decomposers. So they decompose material, whereas certain other mushrooms actually grow, they're secondary decomposers. So they grow on decomposed material already. Mushrooms, there are many different kinds and ways of how we can classify them. But the ones that we work with from a health point of view are, and my 4 top favorites that I love is lion's mane, obviously, because that's the one that people have really gotten to understand from a cognitive and a nervous state of how it can help us. My second favorite is a mushroom called turkey tail. There's many, many benefits to turkey tail, which includes gut health. It includes fighting off cancer cells that are inherent in the body and just getting our immune systems up and running. The third one I would put down as a reishi. It's also a very strong mushroom. And it's very interesting in learning to grow mushrooms. I've also got to know their little intricacies that they have. For example, turkey tail and reishi mushrooms are my strongest growing mushrooms. They grow on many different substrates, and they actually are quite powerful in the way they go about things. They fight off other bacteria that might be present in a substrate. They're very strong, basically. Lion's mane is a little bit more intricate and a little bit more finicky about what it likes, the conditions that it likes and doesn't like. And then I would say my 4th mushroom that I like would be a shiitake, funny enough. Shiitake have got, the previous mushrooms are not really what we would consider gourmet mushrooms as an eating point of view. We would have to extract them to get the goodness out of them. But shiitake are fantastic for gourmet. They've got the most amazing flavor. But they're also very good as an adaptogen for our hormones. Oh, wow. And they also help thin the blood and keep our blood levels in place, our cholesterols and things like that. So there's many things that mushrooms can do for us.
Powerful stuff.
Very powerful in many ways.
I've tried lion's mane. I found it amazing for alertness and focus. Yes. I mean, I love shiitake. That's just a regular in my kitchen. So I would definitely be using that. I had no idea of those benefits, but I don't doubt that it's powerful for the body and cholesterol, and probably even helpful for people with diabetes and hypertension and all kinds of things.
Exactly.
But I'm really curious about the cancer, the turkey tail. Do you have any stories that you could share with us on how that's, helped somebody who's maybe fighting cancer?
So turkey tail is a very powerful, I mean, we all know Paul Stamets has put it out there on social media and been very vocal about the anti-cancer properties that turkey tail has. But in my experience, I've had some very interesting clients come to see me to take turkey tail. Okay. I had a guy that actually had prostate cancer, and it took a while, but we put him on a specific dose, and he's now cancer-free.
That's incredible.
I also had just recently a lady that had lung cancer, and it had metastasized into other areas of her body. The doctor basically had given her 6 months to live and get her affairs in order. But she decided she wanted to go the natural route because she wanted a quality of life at the end. And after 3 months, she went to go and have a regroup with her doctor. And the tests that came back was that her cancer lesions had dissolved by half. So that's only after 3 months. Wow. Can you imagine? We've got another 3 months to go, and we're hoping that after the next 3 months that she's going to be fully healed from her cancer.
That is so powerful.
So there's some very positive things coming out with mushrooms.
And I mean, obviously, I think people might be skeptical because Western medicine tells us, you've got to have chemo and you've got to do hormone treatments and so my question for both of those candidates that worked with the turkey tail, did they use it, I mean, alone? Do you know if it was in conjunction with a Western regimen?
There was no Western regimens involved in both cases. Some people have used cannabis product as well as part of that routine. Yes. But they've all said to me that the mushrooms have been the primary cause of.
This is groundbreaking.
It's really has been. I'm finding miracles are happening almost daily now, which is wonderful to see.
It's a gift, and I firmly believe that all the medicine we need as human beings comes from the earth, comes from Mother Nature. So this absolutely resonates with me. And I'm so excited that someone like you is actually bringing this medicine to our part of the world, in South Africa. This is so needed, and we absolutely love the work. So, and I'd love to hear more stories about how it's helping heal other people. Let's say the strongest understanding of how mushrooms play a role in our society is probably how the young ones do magic mushrooms and, have their parties and go on their fiestas. And so I personally think magic mushrooms, if you want to call it that, put it into that box for psychedelic purposes now, for me is a medicine that needs to be respected and honored and done in a ceremonial setting with, a really gifted spirit guide who can journey you through that medicine in a loving and sacred space. But that's just my perspective on it. Can you share with us how the medicine works from a psychedelic point of view in terms of people's healing and spiritual growth and consciousness?
I love your word respect, because for me, all medicines are about respect. The natural ones even more so.
Absolutely.
And just another example of helping somebody with the mushroom is I had a gentleman come to me who had a stroke 2 years ago. And he said to me there was just a bit of a barrier that he couldn't access. He knew words that he wanted to say, but the words just wouldn't come out. So his cognizance of the words was there, but somehow the barrier was just not allowing him to work with what he was wanting to say. He decided to take a course of microdosing, and within 2 weeks, he came bounding into the shop and gave me the biggest hug and said to me, "You've opened my brain and you've just allowed me to actually access that part of my brain that was been lying dormant for the last 2 years. It was the most wonderful experience for me to know that he had actually been able to access that part of his brain. In saying that, I do believe that the brain is a very, very gentle. We've got to handle our brains with gentleness. Mushrooms are gentle, and somebody once described it as a massage for the brain. Okay, so I see psilocybin as a tool to access our brains. We live a life where stress is abundant. We don't stop for 2 seconds. Our lifestyles are fraught with energy, excess, dopamine excess, all sorts of things going on. And for me, psilocybin is that little hit of serotonin that just allows us to be more ourselves. But it has to be used with respect, as I said. And for me, if you don't use it with respect, you're going to get some issues. And I just hope that as humanity that we learn to do it the right way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you say when you have a shaman or somebody there to guide you through these things, you start learning what that respect is.
Absolutely.
I love that idea of that happening and people being aware.
Yes,
it's about
indeed.
being aware and
Awareness.
respect.
Doing
love
it
that.
consciously. I mean, like we have to do everything in this life consciously and understand the consequences, and also just appreciate that the medicine is definitely subtle in my experience, that it's gentle but also extremely powerful.
Profound,
and it
yes.
can awaken and shift you in ways, even well after you've taken the medicine, because it really does change your whole makeup. It can actually, send you on a journey of healing. It can sometimes be a bit rocky and can sometimes be absolutely magical, but you've got to accept that that might be the journey that you were meant to be on. But when I say, I think also part of dealing with that medicine respectfully and responsibly is to definitely understand that there's so much working behind the scenes that you might not be aware of. So to have that support system, to have that guidance about doing it consciously just prepares you and also allows you, I think, to work with the medicine. Yes. So that you can heighten its impact on your life. Yes. It will show you things, and you need to be open and conscious to be able to see what it's showing you and teaching you in many ways. So it's truly, it's an amazing
What I've
experience.
actually found recently in speaking to people that have undergone journeys and experiences with mushrooms is that it's becoming more and more vital that we actually do it the journey doesn't just happen on the day of the mushroom journey. There's a
Before and an after.
Before and even an after journey that actually it might be not as profound, but it's there, and I think it definitely needs to be spoken about. Absolutely. The brain for me is a muscle, and that muscle memory becomes, as we say, it becomes, the more you do it, it becomes normal. And that's what breaking old traditions and things is about changing concepts. It's about changing your muscle memory into something more profound as to what you want to be. And that takes time. And for me, that journey is not just an instant. It's about practicing and getting to that point where you become the best person you can be. And I do believe that.
Thank you, Sandra.